Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. It is Sunday afternoon and it's been a wonderful day. However, today here where we are on the lake is gray and chilly. Well, probably the same around the country, right? Hey, look, the process of what we've been seeing with the Iraq Dinar and their monetary reforms have been an ongoing process, as we all know, since probably 2003, right? So anyway, in 2010, we have a document that is of the Republic of Iraq Banking Sector Reform Project. It's from the World Bank, and it's published July 17th through the 20th of 2010. I highly recommend you look at that, because what were they talking about? They were talking about reforming the Rashid Bank and the Rafidane Bank. And so you're going to notice that in recent times they've talked about doing that exactly, the same things. And who was involved? The governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, the Ministry of Finance, the IMF, the World Bank. They all worked in conjunction to do that. And they've been doing it ever since. And one of the key people that were involved in that were Ernst and Young. And if you'll notice that in our forum, if you do some searching and do a little bit of study, you'll find that all of those names are easily found. And as of recent, we see information from Ernst and Young. What were they doing? They're doing the audits for the country over this last 14 years, actually. But most recently, they're still in the news. And what we're seeing is a considerable amount of consolidation and effort to bring Iraq into the international community. So again, back in 2010, you're going to see Central Bank of Iraq, Ministry of Finance, the IMF, and Ernst & Young all working in collaboration, again, with the World Bank, and likely with the Bank of International Settlements and others, as they state, to get this process moving forward, okay? What have they done recently? They've recently done things like upgrading their pension systems. They've upgraded their taxes and tariff systems, their taxation system with the eyes cut at the borders, electronic systems, electronic payment systems. So all of these things that they were talking about, effectively, not to the extent that they are today, but they were talking about in 2010, then you subsequently had some setbacks that you could see if you go to these consultation papers that we're talking about. We get directly from the World Bank data, 2010. We have the Article 4 consultations with the IMF annually. They happen all the time. And ultimately, they had theirs last was in 2021, previously to the 2022. And then what we're seeing is that annually we should have expected some things that should have transpired or are transpiring, specifically with that consultation they haven't spoken about yet. And typically they do that in the early part of December. And that's where we are and now into the mid-range of that time frame. So we're expecting to see something from the Article 4 consultations. So let's see how that turns out. What is the Article 4 consultations about? We know that they're about the exchange rate. And we can specifically get to that here in a minute, but we're just getting to that stage where, keep in mind, we know that certain things have been done, we know that certain players are involved, and we know that there's specific systems that have been in place and upgraded for all of this time that they've been talking about have come to fruition. So that's, most of the stuff that everybody's been seeing and saying it's old news is just actually, it's taken time. Again, we've had ISIS, we've had many setbacks, we had political setbacks, all those different things. But here we're at a stage where we're waiting potentially to see if there's been an Article 4 consultation and other issues pertaining to different articles, even Article 14. So let's see what these guys do. The interesting thing is back in 2023 that here they're basically in this particular document they're talking about the budget law for 2023 should avoid a pro-cyclical spending boost and aim to increase savings with gradual tightening of fiscal stance. They're basically talking about reducing Iraq's independence on oil, and we notice that what they're doing, independence on oil, is going to go away because they have non-oil related products and or services and or sectors, industrial sectors, commercial sectors. They're moving away from non-oil, and that's going to be from the taxes and tariffs at the borders, imports, exports. We have natural resources. They're going to have, other than just oil, they're going to have other circumstances. As you saw an article today in our forum, is talking about 350 million tons. No, yeah, 350 million tons of sulfur. So those are just big items. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to achieve sustainability for the private sector, lead into growth. They want to play to the labor field, and they're doing all those things. Improving the private sector's access to electricity. We all know that they've done that. So what have they been talking about since 2010? What are they talking about within the last year? What do we know that the MCOE was derived on or around the November of 2022, and they had their last Article 4 consultation. I think they kind of did some data right around that time frame for what time frame? I think it was right at the end of October. So all of the time frames, they're not exact, but they really do come in. They do come into play. What are Article 4 obligations? Well, Article 4 obligations, that's what we're hoping to see and what they're working on, if not already done or have consulted on, are regarding exchange rate arrangements. The substitution for securities is one of the items. Obligations regarding exchange arrangements. They have a general obligations, Section 1, and basically an endeavor to direct its economic and financial policies toward objective of fostering orderly economic growth and reasonable price stability due to regard to the circumstances. I'll let you guys read into the Article 4, but they seek to promote stability and fostering underlying economic and financial conditions in the monetary system. And they just don't want erratic disruptions. So we can see that they've done that. Their Section 2 says in this Article 4 obligations regarding exchange rate regiments is general exchange arrangements. They talk about surveillance of over exchange arrangements. The fund shall oversee the international monetary system in order to ensure its effective operations and shall oversee the compliance of each member in the obligations section of Article 1. I mean, it's a lot of just different stuff, but what are they talking about? They're talking about Iraq being involved with an exchange rate and having a relationship to the international financial system. And so we can go through that, but ultimately they're talking about par values, separate currencies within members' territories. So I would highly recommend everybody that hasn't done their research, that says it's never going to happen, they're going to probably find some really good articles in the world that talk about exactly what has been going on, what is going on, and who those players are. And they are the largest financial entities in the world. And it's not just your average guru on the street talking, it's them. It is them. So parliamentary finance reveals the possibility of success, the digital transformation in government banks. This goes back to November 17th. Why is it important? Well, we just got through talking about it. They talked about discussing the application of the comprehensive banking system, the use of advanced electronic programs, and monitoring modern technology in banking transactions, and to discuss the development plan submitted by the international company, who? Ernst & Young. Once again, what is this? Oh my, it is November 17th, 2023, and who's involved? The same people that were back in 2010. They've still been hard at it, and they had some stumbling blocks along the way, but not anymore. Ernst & Young regarding the restructuring of Rotterdam Bank in order to ensure the development of its business and its provision of packaged integrated banking services for citizens and companies in line with international banks. So what have we talked about recently? We've talked about the correspondent banks being in place. We talked about what else? We talked about them having currency swaps. That's what the process is. They have to have trade. They have to be able to communicate. They have to be able to facilitate trade. They've already set that stuff up. This is on them. This isn't us. We just bring you guys the news and then enjoy bringing it because it's fascinating to watch. It's historic, and get used to it because the bottom line, it's going to even get better and it's going to change into the future, and there's going to be more to come. So I think everybody should be grounded, get ready, because I think that what they're talking about here is spending money in their 2023 budget for what? Investments. For what? The Development Road Project. One thing after another. So yeah, the Prime Minister, Shia al-Sudani, has basically got together with international company Ernst & Young, and he's just, recognizing that they specializing in auditing and financial consulting. Of course, we knew that, but if you go back in time and you do your history and you've studied this long enough, you know that that's what they do. They do auditing, and they have a significant presence in Iraq. The president, who do they do it in front of? The Ministry of Finance, the governor of the central bank, the director general of the Rafidane Bank, and advisors to the prime minister. And this is November 27th. So this is what, not even a month ago. They're basically stating that they are involved in a comprehensive economic reforms, constituted a priority for the government in its executive program. So what that tells me is that they've really stepped up their game and are gearing to do exactly what they've been talking about. All of these videos that I've done the last probably 4 or 5, you go back to the UN Assembly meeting in September, move forward in my videos, grab some popcorn, and then you're gonna understand and see that. As you all know, I like to go back in time, because when we go back a little bit in time and you come into the future, you can say like, wow, so they really have been doing this. And then you look and see who the players are in this. They are the biggest financial entities on the planet, and they're moving forward with it. And the facts are in the pudding. Anybody that says it's never going to happen has not done any study, and sadly, it's when people do that, I think it's reckless, and I don't think they've done their research properly. And I think that hacking through a forest is one way to get through it, but I think mowing it down with proper study is even a little bit better. So anyway, here's the statement, which is from the U.S. Embassy and the consulate. We've talked about these things. These are people that are specifically involved, and who are they? In this particular case, as of December, we talked about there was meetings in, I think it was in April. I think there was meetings in July that we talked about. And I think there's meetings, as we know for a fact, in here, December 15th. Once again, we're going to talk about it because why? It's who's involved. Involved in this particular case is the contact group of the 7 countries, which is the G7, if you don't know who they are. So if those that need to look up the G7 and see who that entails, it's just a simple Google. You can do that. The European Union, that's obviously pretty self-explanatory in itself. The World Bank, so once again, but the cool part is that somebody they missed out on, and they missed out in this particular case is the IMF. The previous ones mentioned things like the IMF, right? And they didn't do it this time. A suggestion on my part is because why? What's due? IMF consultation, Article 4, right? Article 4 consultation. They haven't done it yet. When do they do it? They do it annually, every year. When have they done them in the past? In and around December. And here we are. Boom. They did the 21st, 2020, 2021. They did the 2022. They finished it in December 6th. And then they published it in February. And here it is now, today. And we're moving towards the end of the year. So let's see how this goes. But so this particular article, once again, they said in December 2023, December 12th, the Economic Contact Group held the final meeting for the 2023. So these guys had finished. Who was it inclusive of? It was Italy, United States, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, European Union, the United Kingdom, the United States, the World Bank, and others. But they don't say the IMF. Anyway, so that to me is powerful. I don't want to reiterate it again. But again, that group of people, they praised who? Al-Sudani. Because why? Because he brought in experts in the field to get the process going. Where did he get them? He got those experts from the private sector. And where are they going with this whole country? To the private sector. Why haven't they paid the salaries for the whole year? Because they don't have a new exchange rate. Why haven't they started pumping oil to the Siam port again? Because they don't have an exchange rate. All of these things come to play, and it is simple. It's not, they will never happen. It's a matter of when it will happen. So here again, February 3rd, 2023, who's involved? The IMF, Article 8 consultation, finished, right? What is the Article 8 consultation? Well, we already went over that. It's about exchange rates, regimens, all of that thing, all of those things. One of the things here is that this year's report, the 2022 Article 4 consultation, basically has been endorsed by the staff appraisal, so they've done all their work. It says the economy is recovering well. The near-term outlook is positive amid a large windfall. The real GDP is estimated to have increased by 8% in 2022. Interestingly enough, we're going to get to a page here that talks about the real effective exchange rate. Okay, but so the bottom line is, I'm not going to get into all the numbers, but if you go to the IMF Executive Board article, it's a press release that concludes the 2022 Article 4 consultation. It dated February 3rd. Google it, find it, read it, see the percentages. I think you'll be pretty surprised that the current account surpluses are expected to reach 6.1%. And there's more to it, so just please enjoy doing that little extra research. It'll be good for you. There's some other things that they, under the guise of the recent developments. I think this whole document, if this is the right one, it's either 71 pages or it's 136, but either way, we've got them both. But here it's basically talking about that the foreign exchange FX market has been broadly stable. The market exchange rate generally remained within 2%, which we all know that 2% is one of those guidelines for the IMF's rules. It says, although the spread rose somewhat in recent weeks, this is dating back pre-222, but they also go on to say that the real effective exchange rate appreciated by 4.4% year on year in the first 10 months of 2022 on the back of strengthening the US dollar. Stop right there. They tell you that they had increase in 2022 in this document. But if you go into the same document and you find what they do not do is they mention it there that they had a year-on-year increase in 2022, but if you look really closely, it says here the real exchange rate, they don't discuss 2022, 23, 24. It's interesting. Just the way they do it, and there's a reason for it. Right above that, it said exchange rate. If you looked at it closely, it says for year 2022 is 1450, 2023, 1450, 2024 is 1450. And you ask yourself, well, why would the IMF leave that like it is and then have nothing for 2022, 23, 24 when it comes to the real effective exchange rate pricing? Well, firstly, the 1450 is not true because we know that they changed it from 1450 to 1310. I believe it was February 7th, 2023. Okay, so pay attention. Don't listen to everybody that suggests that it's always the 20th or it's always December 20th. It can be historically at many different time frames. You'll just have to go through that on your own. But it's not always on the same day, and it's not always on the same month, and it's not always at the beginning of a year, and it's not always at the end of a year. It can be many of those things. So keep that in mind. Another one of the things that's in that article is talking about exchange arrangements. Well, in this particular case, as far as the exchange rates we were talking about, December 2020, they changed the exchange rate that was at 1460 at that time. I think it went from 1190 or 1182, depending on if you have fees involved. Okay, that was on that date. So there's an example, but again, the most recent one was not on 2020. It was not. So that's just, you can look that up. It says there's been no changes to Iraq's exchange system since the last Article 4 consultation. This article is referring to 2021. It says Iraq continues to avail itself on the transitional arrangements under Article 14, Section 2. So when you're doing your research, look up that Article 4, Section 2. But it says no longer maintains exchange rate restrictions or multi-currency practices subject to Article 14, Section 2, and currently maintains one multiple currency practice subject to the fund's approval under Article 8, Section 3. So the country can have approval to have multi-currency practices for specific reasons upon approval. If you notice that they didn't approve, they didn't document any real effective exchange rate for those years, and they said they'd had growth. So the expectation is deduced from that they had expectations for it to happen, they just didn't get it. They said they probably had that 4.4% year-on-year growth supporting it, but they didn't do it in 2022. They didn't have a budget finished because they had the EFSL in 2022. Now we have the 23, 24, 25 tripartite budget that needs to start spending, which they said would happen sometime around this next month. They, not us, gave a time frame to start spending for the budget on the, I think it's 12/20/2023. And they first said within about assumed 5 days. Then they come back and added on to that and said the last 10 days of the year. So please, everybody, don't focus in on any one specific day because they didn't give you any one specific day. They just give us time frames, and that's what we study. We're not giving a specific day, and obviously they haven't disclosed any such thing as a rate. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. Beautiful information. It says here that today, to end this conversation, the advisor to the Prime Minister of Iraq today has the highest levels of foreign reserves in its financial history. So that's today. They're telling you all these different things, and here we are, their first day of the week, towards the end of the day, they're telling you that Iraq has the highest reserves that they've ever had in history. It says here, what is happening has nothing to do with the strength of the Iraqi economy. Iraq today is at the highest levels of foreign reserves in the financial history. Rather, structural changes have occurred to the issues of dealing with foreign currencies. So they're basically stating what they have done is that they've made changes to the issue of dealing with foreign currency. And we all know that what have they been doing? They've been doing currency swaps. They've been populating correspondent banks with currency. They didn't say exactly if it's 000 notes or if it's small category notes, but they said they've been populating countries with foreign currency. And so I think it's pretty exciting. I think we're going to see some structural changes, of course, and those structural changes are going to be about going to the private sector. And I think that everybody and their brother should basically do some serious research. Here's a little bit of just an IMF report that we talked about, those big reports that have happened to be done in 2022 for the articles that I have. First off, I'm going to say this. I'm going to take a look really quickly, if I can get it to pull up. It is that we have the International Monetary article. It is 136 pages. The Embassy of the Republic of Iraq joint statement is one of them, and we have a 20-page report from the World Bank. Okay, and so those pages that are kind of important to save you guys a little bit of time on the IMF report is pages 2 and 3 of the Executive Board Assessment, page 5 the key issues, Page 9, recent developments. Page 37, 2020 completed question. It sure looks like it. Page 62 is an exchange rate, exchange arrangement. 63 is their last consultation, February 8th, 2021, which they finished. 2022, we talked about the Article 4, done, showed it to you. And page 71, it says the date received, it was 12/14/2022. So if you think about it, all of that data I just gave you, Article 4, section Schedule C, Article 5, Section 1, Article 8, Section 3, Article 14, Sections 2 and 3. All of those are the sections that the IMF are talking about because they're real-time data and they are inclusive of the World Bank. And they also talk about an Annex 1, Annex 1 through 5. But their key focus in 2010 was Annex 1, and you can find these things. So those that think that it's never going to happen, I think that you guys got to do your research. I think you'll find that when you do that research, you're going to be amazed and you're going to agree with me and Militiaman and Crew because we do the research and we do support everything that we do. So thank you guys for being with me on this afternoon, Sunday. And if you like my content in the newbies, like it, subscribe, and we have Venmo, Zelle, and the PayPal for helping out. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.